Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the PAL Network. Today we have Moitshepi Matsheng from Youth Impact in Botswana. Moitshepi is the co-founder and managing director of Youth Impact Organization, a youth-led movement reaching over 200,000 young people in 10 countries. Youth Impact's mission is to scale high-impact health and education programs. She is a social innovator focused on bringing evidence-based education programs to be institutionalized in government systems. So to just get started, given the Youth Impact's work with government and scaling through government systems, it's very important for Youth Impact that interventions are institutionalized. What are some of the rich stories that are coming from the implementation of TAL that you would like to share with our audience to just create a general understanding of how important foundational learning is?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Paul, for the nice intro. And just to share, particularly with teaching at the right level, we are
Yeah.
in 9 out of 10 regions in the country, and we're
Yeah.
working with various government ministries, including that of education, as well as we've trained hundreds of teachers and the National Service Volunteer Program. But also, we
Yeah.
work with parents. And this is important, particularly when you think about education interventions, that the main
Yeah.
goal is to improve learning outcomes and really transform education. When we started this work, we found that only 10% of Standard 5 students were at division level. So this means that majority of the students that are in classrooms, whether it is the
Yeah.
highest or the lower performing schools, that indeed learning is a challenge. And you find that foundational learning is significantly low in terms of where students are at in terms of their education. So,
Yeah.
particularly what I could share is we have seen great improvements in learning outcomes since we started implementing teaching at the right level in classrooms. We have
Yeah.
seen innumeracy, reduce and numeracy increase by more than half. So this means that one of the anchors and one of the good things about the TAL intervention is that it indeed improves learning outcomes. The other second
Yeah.
important aspect of it is the intervention focuses on assessing students on their different learning abilities, and then
Yeah.
grouping them according to their different learning abilities and using targeted instruction to improve learning outcomes. And what we have
Yeah.
seen from this experience is that most governments are looking for solutions. And we believe that the solution to some of the education challenges in the country is that we need to
Yeah.
improve foundational learning before we even get to the higher grades or even working with students in the later grades, right before they transition off from primary school, is we believe
Yeah.
that if a student is able to read, if a student is able to do basic simple mathematics, they're able to really improve their foundations, but also their learning. And that's
Yeah.
fundamentally what we are doing as an organization, and also aligned to a lot of the PAL networks work and goals to ensure that every child can be able to read as well as do basic maths.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. It gives a profound, picture of the significance of foundational learning. Yeah. The other element is the understanding that people would like to know how you are able to engage directly with governments to implement TAL through schools, the collaboration, how that works, and how you are able to expand throughout the country.
Yeah, no, thank you. That's a very important question. So we have signed a memorandum of understanding with the Ministry
Yeah.
of Child Welfare and Basic Education to be able to reach every child in primary school by the year 2026.
Yeah.
So we have a big
Yeah.
goal, but also we are quite encouraged by the support from the ministry to be able to do this work. The first
Yeah.
important thing that was also that we needed to do as an organization is to use data to highlight the learning gap and the learning challenge in the country. So we did a situational analysis with the government and partners to be able to see in a country such as
Yeah.
Botswana, which has high enrollment rates and good infrastructure, what could be the challenge. So we did a situational analysis to answer that question, to be able to highlight the significant learning challenge that our country
Yeah.
faces. Beyond
Yeah.
that, we have really worked closely and collaborated with various stakeholders to bring a solution, such as teaching at the right level, that will indeed help us understand the learning challenges and the learning gaps in the country. And one of the
Yeah.
most pivotal points in our growth and collaboration with working with various ministries was we needed to be able to understand the challenge, but also provide a solution, as I've mentioned. So we worked actually with
Yeah.
the regional directors, and these
Mhm.
are government staff members that have the leadership at regional level to be able to scale. So we started first off
Yeah.
with about 2 regions. And then from there on, we also moved to more regions as we saw that the program was indeed improving learning
Yeah.
outcomes. And one of the big things that we have found on working with regional directors is that it was important that we find champions of change.
Yeah.
And when we
Yeah.
meet champions of change, is these are people within the government that have recognized that learning is a challenge, but also are interested
Yeah.
in improving and seeing change happen. So working with regional
Yeah.
directors was very pivotal because it really allowed us to be able to expand with the government, but also to learn
Yeah.
on what works and what doesn't work for the various contexts that we're in. We have found that,
Yeah.
for example, where we started, other regional directors were able to talk with their counterparts in the different regions around, some of
Yeah.
some of the results that were shown by teaching at the right level, and that was one
Yeah.
strategy that we used to be able to expand. Another thing that has been important in our expansion is to establish a committee that sits within the ministry to be able to form, I would say, a committee that's centered around expansion and scale of teaching at the right level. This committee is chaired by the director at national level, but also invites other regional directors. So this has really been helpful to be able to come together as various stakeholders. With the main goal to talk about scale, to address some of the challenges that may come with implementation. But I would say fundamentally, what has also been a driving factor is to have data available of the different regions to show performance, but also to tackle some of the challenges that may come with implementation. So that has also
Yeah.
been appreciated because when we're talking
Yeah.
about the needs and the resources of particular regions, or just even to organize trainings for teachers, we are still, anchored together and have a group of people that are really looking towards these challenges, using the data,
Yeah.
but also having a community that will be able to provide solutions together has really been helpful in thinking through growth as well as partnership with the government.
Thank you. Thank you. I think that's a really good story and perspective that I'm sure a lot of people can be able to learn into. And I love the collaboration element and the working together and building together, essentially with government agencies and partners. What would you say are some of the key challenges and successes of foundational learning, uh, uh, especially citizen-led foundational learning, while implementing largely TAL
Yeah,
in,
yeah,
in
no,
Botswana?
thank you so much. So, one of the things that is wonderful about the PAL network is that it is bringing 17 members across 15 various countries to be able
Yeah,
to work on assessments as well as action and advocacy. So, particularly with the citizen led assessment, is that it has provided a common tool across the different countries to be able
yeah,
to assess students' learning in reading as well as in maths. And this is wonderful because it provides, I would say, a togetherness in understanding the learning challenges across various countries. And once we
yeah,
understand these learning challenges, we are able to advocate for solutions and interventions that will be able to improve learning outcomes. So it's been wonderful
yeah,
that the citizen led assessments are led by citizens, but also ensuring that we can be able to measure across different countries to be able to address, what solutions and interventions should we bring to improve learning outcomes in various countries. And
yeah,
one of the things that I would say is that it has provided an outlet for various countries to be able to truly understand their situations in their various countries, to work with ministries, to work with teachers, as well as all the community stakeholders in addressing learning challenges. And once we know, we can be able to, propose solutions and interventions that would indeed improve learning outcomes in the country. So, in the work that
yeah.
the PAL Network members have done, this has been, greatly appreciated. And we need data so that we can be able to advocate better, but also provide learning solutions in various countries. One thing that I must
Yeah.
share is in Botswana, only are we working with the ministries, we are working with various NGO partners in the country, but also in many other countries. And often at times, we need to be able to provide, the necessary data, as I shared, but also think through
Yeah.
on what can we do. Teaching at the right level is one solution that we have seen has been scaled by various governments in different countries. And we believe that because the data in terms of the learning gaps is available, it can indeed be
Yeah.
utilized to provide, these necessary interventions.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much for that. How do you feel these common work that we do as a network contributes to our advocacy on children's foundational learning?
Yeah, thank you so much. So before, right, you advocate for something, you need to fully
Yeah.
understand,
Yeah.
where the challenges are, and the
Yeah.
work around the common, citizen-led assessments with the PAR network members and countries allows us to fully understand, where the learning challenges are, as well as where the learning gaps, such that we can consistently advocate and report. Right? It's also, advocacy, but also reporting on
Yeah.
these assessments that member organizations do, so that we can be able to understand the challenge. So it's important that that data is available, it's accessible, but also allows us to be able to look at the data and also make decisions for improving education outcomes.
Thank you. Thank you. And the world is progressing quickly, and we are just 5 years into before we hit 2030, and there are a lot of conversations. But ours still remains: what's the ideal state of foundational learning by 2030, and what can we do to achieve it?
Absolutely. So, on a more high level perspective, we want to ensure that every child in the world has access to lifelong learning. And that is a goal that brings the PAL member organizations together to ensure
Yeah,
every child can read and do basic maths. And that means that by 2013, there are quite a few, I would say, broader goals that we should all be looking to. The first one
yeah,
is to ensure that we can be able to use data that could be accessible and also relevant to various countries. And having the citizen led assessment allows us to be able to measure learning such that we can deeply understand the challenges, but also to ensure that we can be able to provide solutions that will address some of these challenges. So it is important that we ensure that we can be able to continuously do assessments as well as ensure we are consistent with that to provide adequate data. And then the second one is on what education approaches have can we be able to implement as member countries that have shown and improved learning outcomes. And we know from the data that targeted instruction is one educational approach that has really underwent, multiple trials and has shown to improve foundational skills in literacy as well as maths. So we need to encourage
yeah,
governments as well as NGOs that are working in education to bring, targeted, learning approaches as paramount to improving learning outcomes. I firmly believe that this is a
yeah.
solution because we cannot continue teaching and adhering to the curriculum when we know that in many countries students are still struggling with basic reading and math. And if we introduce other concepts such as fractions or even all the other various reading
Mm.
requirements, if a student is not able to recognize a letter, for example, right? So that there's a serious mismatch that are happening in many classrooms. And it's because we are advancing the curriculum, whereas a student is still not catching on the basic fundamentals to even begin with. So the big message here is
Yeah.
that we need to focus on our foundations. We need to go back and inside, the drawing board to ensure that students can be able to do really basic and simple maths and also be able to read a simple paragraph before
Yeah.
we move into other higher demands of teaching and learning. So the big thing is in the next 5 years to be able to focus on our foundations and really going back to the basics.
Thank you. And going back to the basics, how is Youth Impact working towards this vision of ensuring that all children can be able to read and do basic math?
Thank you so much. So, particularly in Botswana, we are in 9 out of 10 regions in the country. And we are
Yeah.
hoping to scale to all primary schools by the end of the year 2026. So we have a big goal, and we ought to be able to ensure that we can reach as many students as much as possible in Botswana. We are also working in multiple countries where we have established offices in South Africa, as
Yeah.
well as in the Philippines, India, as well as Namibia, working with government to be able to scale targeted instruction approaches in various countries. The big thing that we want to see as an organization is to reach as many students as possible. To ensure that we improve learning outcomes in various countries. And we do so by working with teachers, training national service program youth volunteers, but also working with various education stakeholders to ensure that we can reach this big vision and big goal. The other second thing that we are doing as an organization is that we are,
Mhm.
employing A/B testing as well as various research methodologies to be able to tweak and optimize the program such that it remains cost effective. And also, it can be able to be as simple enough for the governments to be able to continue, scaling it in their various regions and in their various countries. And we believe that it is important that as we move towards scale, we continuously learn, we continuously adapt the program such that we can be able to simplify it and optimize the program for more scale. And yeah, the third thing is just to be able to learn from various partners as well as organizations on what has worked as well as what really improves learning outcomes and methodology. So we continuously want to learn as well as work with others as we move towards scale in more countries.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Um, PAL is turning 10, and PAL and Youth Impact technically is like siblings, grew up
Yes.
together. Youth Impact turned 10 last year. What role do you see the network playing in achieving an ideal state of foundational learning in the global south?
Yes, so wonderful that Powell Network, we are a decade old, and that is
Yeah.
really a big, big milestone. One of the things that I think is special about Powell Network is it really brings a diverse group of organizations together to be able to learn, share, as well as really contribute to each other's works. And it's
Yeah.
really exciting that we are in this 10-year milestone together. One of the things that I think we should continuously doing, and as we are doing, is continuously advocating for learning as well as particularly foundational learning. And that is unique about PAL Network is to ensure that we can bring the diverse countries and voices together to continuously advocate for foundational learning. And one of the things that I think this is important is that foundational learning really ensures children can be able to access the world, but also to be able to ensure lifelong learning. And that is really one aspect that the PAL network should continue pressing on to ensure that all voices are heard and that we put learning at the forefront. The second thing that I
Mhm.
do think we need to be able to do as the PAL network is to continue with our citizen led assessments because these are paramount to be able to provide data. To our sustainable development goals, but to ensure and to ensure that we can be able to track where we are in terms of foundational learning in various countries. So I believe that the data that member organizations bring will ensure that we can be able to monitor and to track to where we are and how far we are in terms of improving foundational learning. And that is, I would say, something that we as the PAL network should continue working towards, to be able to use this data for advocacy, but also to ensure that we can have the necessary programs that will be solutions to the learning challenges that various member organizations are facing.
Thank you. That's incredible. What do you think sums up? What's the one word you think sums up the PAL network family?
Oh, that's a very good question. Oh, this is a good question, Paul. Let me think. One word. Um, I wanted to say family, but you've already used that word. But I want to say concerned. I would say the PAL network is concerned. So all the various member organizations are passionate and also committed to the cause, and they really want to see change. Whether it is, through all the, various policy statements we've written, as well as campaign videos or petitions, we are concerned citizens, and each member organization has really been committed to transforming learning and to be able to work together to really ensure that we can be able to assess as well as, action in the work that we do. And I would say that really each member organization has really been concerned on education, and they want to see that change.
Incredible concern, and you've wrapped it up incredibly well. I think that sums up the spirit of the network and what we're trying to achieve, and that's really incredible. Thank you so much, Shebi.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was wonderful, Paul. Thank you.
Wonderful. I have one last ask though. I would like you to say congratulations, Pal, for turning 10 in your language.
Re akgola PAL network gore ebe e kgonne go hitlhella dingwaga di le 10 re leeletsa tse dintle fela thata.
Thank you very much, Shepi, for that incredible conversation. And thank you, everyone, for joining us in this wonderful conversation on foundational learning. It was wonderful to have you. Keep following PAL Network platforms online to get updated on the latest episodes. Until next time, thank you.